What up, crypto media friends? Welcome to another overtime show. Bumping my E40 track, Snoop Dogg mixtape. Cause I own the rights, I guess, until until YouTube stops me and Snoop Dogg tells me I don't own the rights. Which who knows? These rights, and we're talking today about IP. They may go away tomorrow. There is no contract between me and Snoop Dogg, and in fact, the OpenSea contract says pretty explicitly that you're not really transferring rights. And so, while I appreciate what's going down with Snoop and his offering, looking to see how to make that a bit realer for token holders, and as creators and as you guys create, how do we make that more real? And so, one approach is Azuki's approach, which is the BoBu coin. And so we're going to talk today about a really innovative approach towards IP management through governance. And so BoBu is a token based upon Azuki number 40, which is sort of the central character of the Azuki story, if you will. And now this story is still in development. Everyone just kind of knows, like, oh yeah, it's about the bean farmer. But, the backstory of which has yet to be developed. And I think it's kind of clever what they've done is they tried to give the community some freedom, but guidelines, very strong guidelines. So they've come up with 5 governance issues in which to vote on. So you get this token of 50,000, and you are of maybe, I think it's about 15,000 owners of 50,000 tokens, governance tokens only. And you're able to vote on, sort of about 5 initial steps in the story development. And so by doing so, you kind of give guidance. And this is what's great about Azuki and offering this guidance. It was funny. I was at this event in Los Angeles here. I kind of lightly poke some fun at sort of the misnomer and how people don't quite understand the space. And there was this producer came up to me and he's just like, yeah, I'm here to make some deals with and meet some NFT people and get their IP, take their IP, and make movies with them. I'm going to make big movies with them. I'm going to make big television shows. I'm going to make, it's going to be on Netflix. And I was like, cool, fantastic. Like, let's talk about that. How are you going to approach that? What projects are you looking at? And so he looks at me. He's like, I think I'm going to start off with Azuki. And I was like, cool. He's like, yeah, that's like a big name. And like, if I started off with Azuki, damn, I'd be balling. And I was like, cool, man. Like, I'm trying not to make fun of this guy, honestly. Like, I'm curious about his mentality. And he was just like, and I was just like, well, you can pretty much ask the holders because Azuki gives you full rights. And he didn't know what to make of that. He looked at me and he was just like, yeah, so, I'm gonna probably just meet up with the creators and like, make a deal or something like that. What are the creators are here that I can meet? And he just didn't quite understand that Azuki is one of those projects that gave full creative commercial rights to their holders. And so therein lies sort of, the quandary, I think, for a lot of creators. And that's, how much do I give up in terms of, the ability to make my Star Wars? Because that's what everyone wants to make, right? They want to make the big tentpole movie out of the IP, but at the same time giving commercial rights to holders so that they could potentially enrich in your universe, maybe even iterate faster, better than you. And that's their fears. Like, they'll lose control. And this idea of centralization within decentralized Web3 is kind of a joke. And so, but there's a lot of consternation, a lot of push back against giving up IP, giving up rights as a centralized project in Web3, which again, it's a mindset. And what I love about Azuki is they initially right away said full commercial rights to the holders. 12, 14 ETH floor. I mean, it's just like, we're talking about just a huge And we all saw what happened with Larva Labs and Yuga Labs. Larva Labs was just like so stuck and ingrained into giving rights to punks, and punks were quite angry that they weren't able to take their punk and do projects with them, and especially with the notoriety given to punks. And so guys like G Money are just like are kind of screwed right now. But along comes Yuga Labs, and Yuga's just like buys out Larva Labs, the rights from them for CryptoPunks, and then as this great olive branch says, "Oh, hey guys, I know we talked mess on you for the past year, but here's your rights to your punks." And I think that was really freaking awesome. And again, commendable, and what the space is about, because then you have people able to utilize and leverage this massive property that they're a part of. Now Azuki, what they've done, I think they've taken that even a step further, which is really brilliant, by way of experimentation. So you have, okay, we're going to do Azuki, and you have the rights. They retain a certain amount of rights, as creators. But what they've done also, they said, okay, Azuki number 40, BoBu, is our main character. This main character, we're going to guide you not just on storytelling development and what we want our universe to be, but this is how you do it. This is how you create your own IP off of a character. And so they've taken 40, and they've put him into a fractional art vault. And this is the weird misnomer here, is when they call it a fractional art vault, you kind of get in trouble. When you say a fractional art, you also imply fractional ownership, which implies shares. Now, that is not what they want at all. And I think they go on to state here several times in iteration that no, this is not fractional ownership. This is governance tokens only. So ERC 1155 tokens, 50,000 of them. By depositing it into this vault, you create 50,000 of these 1155 tokens to give to holders, which they kind of just sold sort of like open market. I think they didn't drop them to holders. They wanted it to be very sort of experimental and niche, and so they didn't want to sort of belabor or trouble those who weren't interested in experimenting in this IP character experiment, but they were willing to demonstrate, and I think that that's important. And so by going through this demonstration, they were like, okay, hey, this is how you do it. You create governance tokens, and here's the first 5 votes up, and it's like, what is BoBu's backstory to what does his merch look like, these very broad choices to help define. Eventually their goal is to then give the power over to the DAO, but giving them that sort of headway into creation, I think, is really important and very smart. And it's a great move within the space to allow people to understand, because this is all so new for everybody, and everyone's really stressed out and freaked out about rights. And when you have properties that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, like CryptoPunks, and like it seems like Azuki's on its way to being as well. You have a lot of consternation as to, like, I want to do something with my this thing that I own that is worth quite a bit of money, and that I think I could come up with a really cool merch idea, or a television show, or something that's very specific to that character that the person who holds has a vision for. And that is Web3, and that's why I love this space and its invention of giving the power to holders. And so that's why I'm always advocating for, as creators, to try and look beyond that centralized, like, IP, because then you're stuck in sort of the meeting of that producer is just like very centralized and didn't quite understand, but knew that they wanted something big. When all you had to do was just, be a part of that community and maybe get, 5 or 6 other holders together, and you can kind of go and create your own show. So it's a great space for that type of stuff if given the rights. And that doesn't come unless creators give full commercial rights, and so that's the big challenge right now. And I think what's great again is they've gotten professional writers. They've lined up great professional writers to write this story, and they're just going to ask in terms of the governance, hey, should he come from whatever, a broken home? They're setting up the choices, much like Glue Factory had done. I think that's kind of the approach. But I think what's even better in this approach, because Glue Factory was like a bit like, hey, here's this, and we're going to take this now, and we're going to go make the deal. So we'll let you know if we get a TV deal. Okay, thanks. If they get a TV deal. And so it seems a bit sort of, gimmicky in a sense, to be honest. And I think that was sort of the letdown in a sense, and certainly the letdown. I don't want to say it's relative to pricing in any way, but it's certainly relative to interest. You can see it. There's a certain holder out there right now who's looking and understanding what IP means and what rights mean to them as token holders. And so when you don't have those, you feel a bit vulnerable to the creators who might not have a great Hollywood producer on your team. If you don't, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, hit me down in the comments, message me on Twitter, MintyFreshVibe, at MintyFreshVibe, and we can talk. But having professional writers write the story for you and getting the audience's sort of or the holders' choices and interactions, and then letting sort of the DAO run itself, I think is a very interesting move. And so I'd like to see how this pans out. They've gotten some really nice headway, and I know they have some surprises for holders as well, which this is another great thing is like, sometimes when you're looking at the floor price of Azuki or the floor price of apes, which is why they're doing a token, BoBu the bean farmer has a floor price of 0.055. And so having that, 15,000 owners, 50,000 total, and you can buy in for $140 and be part of the Azuki universe. That's super cool and accessible. And, it's something I'm probably going to do just to keep tabs on this experiment. And I know they have some nice surprises for owners, probably not as big as surprises for the Azuki proper holders, but that's the delivery of value. And for those of you in South by Southwest, what's up? You guys are seeing delivery of value in Doodles. Everyone is talking about that Doodles experience. It's fantastic. It looks great. I haven't been, but it looks fantastic, and it's got great partnerships and bare paints, very smartly put together. Hand in hand development of sort of the corporate, as well as, again, creating experiences for the holders so that they feel valued in a space. That feels gosh darn good when you can go to an event like South by Southwest and have this really amazing experience that everyone is talking about, that you have access to as a holder. I called this when it happened to Bored Apes. I called this when it happened to a lot of projects down in Art Basel. Doodles is going to come out of this with a much not a fervor, but certainly a very high anticipation for acquisition for their NFT, because by doing great live events, it gives value. And I think that when others see that, they FOMO the F out and they want that value too. And so Doodles did an amazing job with having that experience there. Now, fractionalized, to keep a very high supply of 50,000, allowing you to have the accessibility, as well as, giving people the first few steps of how to participate in a DAO is kind of cool. And I think that's the challenge right now, is how to educate people in DAO participation. Anytime I'm voting, I know it's pretty low turnout, to be honest. And so if you can get people to learn how to vote in DAOs and to understand what's possible, what it means to be in a governance DAO and not a investment DAO is a very important delineation, certainly for just legalities of being able to participate. Because if you are in a governance DAO, that's that's legal. That's not well, I would say not a shareholding scenario and situation. And so you can check it out, bobu.azuki.com. But I think it's more important. I mean, you can read about this all day, but it's just like, I think it's more important to get involved in something like this, because building traditional IP and exploiting it is, it's very centralized. And by doing this decentralized in a specific character, who's the main character of your story, is a risk, is bold, but certainly gives a lot of power to the holders, which I think is really admirable. And if you're an Azuki holder, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, because I talk about great projects that are on the move, and you can put down in the comments section what else is going on with Azuki, because I'm super interested, even more so now because of just the innovation, technically, obviously when they minted, all the way to the giving the rights, and then now doing this fractional. Well, it's not quite fractional, is it? It's like an IP experiment, character IP experiment, that I think is very exciting, and could be, again, the path for a lot of its holders to understand the power of DAOs, to understand the power, because, guys, they raised it's at least $2.5 million at its current price. Its evaluation of like 50,000, it's like $2.5 million of raise based off of a character. Can you imagine that, guys? Can you imagine you going and getting and buying an NFT, creating a DAO, understanding how to do this, creating a DAO, raising $2.5 million for a project that you believe in that has to do with that character? That is Web3. Welcome to it. Have fun. Hit me in the comments section.